all reporters. This committee is investigating facts on the ground in Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and doing 1 to 2 depositions a day. That is a lot of investigative work. That is a lot of interviews, and that is a pace that is, at least in terms of what the public sees, not apparent. That jumps out at me, Jackie.
Yeah, Nicole, and this tracks with, I think, what we've been reporting on for the past few months, really since November, but that obviously has picked up this month, where I think we've been able to really put together a lot of the different pieces. But this, legal operation that was being run by the former president's outside legal team was far-reaching. The people that were at the Willard Hotel running this command center, people like Mayor Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Bernie Kerik, they were simply the liaisons that were in communication with a lot of people on the ground in these swing states, trying to convince their Republican allies and state legislatures to help them overturn the results of the election. They were trying to find fraud. And again, I've said this before, but it was sort of a spaghetti on the wall operation. They were reaching out to as many people that they thought would be sympathetic to Trump as possible. That being said, we still haven't seen the big fish cooperate with the committee here, and I think that might prove to be a problem for this committee. Of course, putting together all of these small pieces are very important. There is so much that we still don't know. Reporting over the past few weeks, I think, says that itself. But when people like Jeffrey Clark refuse to ask questions, people who were in the Oval Office with the president in the days and weeks leading up to the January 6th insurrection, people like John Eastman, who has already made it clear that he's not going to cooperate, that makes getting things like this NARA request, these documents that were coursing through the White House at this time, even more important if these central characters continue to decline to be cooperative.
Yeah, I mean, to Jackie's point, Robert Costa, you and Mike have both done some incredible reporting on John Eastman. There's so much known, and it seems to be coming out in the form of investigative journalism all the time, revelations that while the siege was ongoing, he accused Pence of causing it by not overturning the will of the people. And I'm just thinking to other sort of Trump-era investigations, you don't necessarily need every Jeffrey Clark to sit down if you have the acting attorney general of the time, Mr. Rosen, who has cooperated with the Senate Judiciary Committee and the 1-6 Committee, his note taker. I mean, talk about getting the whole Eastman story without Eastman, should he refuse to comply.
The Eastman story is really about an Eastman memo, a plan. And when Woodward and I discovered this document, we saw that this was a plan that was in action in early January. And the story that the committee is trying to piece together clearly by interviewing people in the states is to figure out who was going to be a touch point for Trump as he tried to execute the plan on January 5th, 6th, and in the days after, should there have been a delay on the certification. And if there is a crime here, it could be to defraud the United States, a criminal conspiracy. Jackie made an excellent point about the lack of a big fish. So far, we have not seen a John Dean type figure to acknowledge a criminal conspiracy. So in that vacuum, the committee has work to do. Is there a conspiracy beyond just the Willard War Room? Bannon talking to Trump, Giuliani and Eastman talking to Trump. What about Trump talking to other people in the states? We know he was leaning on lawmakers at the state and federal level.
Mike, I don't want to gloss over some of the tea leaves that we're reading about the judge that's looking at the release of the president's documents. I want to read from some of NBC's reporting. Trump's lawyers said the request for a wide range of documents is invalid because the committee doesn't have unlimited power of investigation and can only seek material directly related to writing legislation. Are you really saying the president's notes, talking points, and records of telephone conversations on January 6th have no bearing on the investigation? That was U.S. District Court Judge Tanya Chutkan. These are about who the president was talking to as people were breaking windows and climbing into the Capitol. It seems that there's at least some consideration from this judge that they are relevant. Where do you put sort of the calculation as to whether or not all those documents and phone logs and visitor logs will make their way to the 1-6 Committee?
I think the issue here is about time. And Donald Trump really benefited during his presidency by delaying, turning over things, fighting them in court, taking them all the way up to the Supreme Court. And over that time, investigations petering out, political will petering out, interest from the public turning elsewhere. And what's going to be interesting to see here is the collision of two things, is that can Trump continue to appeal this case, which legal experts say he's probably likely to lose? Is he able to appeal it to the point that Democrats run out of runway in terms of time? They want to get this investigation done next year before the midterm elections. They want this to be done before the campaigning really heats up around that. And will Trump be able to outlast them and outweight them so they will not get these materials? The other thing is that what is in these materials? Is it things that sort of reinforce what we already know? Is it drafts of speeches that just sort of take Trump's rhetoric that we've already heard and change it? Or is it things along the lines of what Bob Costa found in his book, along the Eastman memo lines? And that's what we really don't know and don't have a greater sense of. But to me, it's about the timing. Will there be enough time? Because if the Democrats certainly lose next year, they lose power, they'd be in the minority, and conducting an investigation would be much more difficult.
And Robert Costa, to Mike's point about time, it's your sense that this ends up at the United States Supreme Court, right?
If this ends up at the Supreme Court, it will be perhaps one of the most monumental decisions the court has made. There was an insurrection at the United States Capitol on January 6th of this year. In Watergate, Nixon was forced to release the tapes by Chief Justice Burger because there was a crime that had taken place, and no president can have confidentiality when it comes to documents when a crime has taken place. That was the threshold for Burger. What's the threshold for this Supreme Court? That's the lingering question. Are they going to protect a former president with so-called privilege when it comes to documents, even though he's out of office and an insurrection took place? If they do and protect Trump and enable him to not release these documents, we might never have a clear answer, especially if Republicans take over the House, as Mike said, in 2022. And that's why Bannon and so many others, including Clark, seem to be in this wait-and-see game. Just wait and hope conservative justices on the Supreme Court somehow don't have a Warren Burger moment and prompt Trump and these documents, and especially those phone logs from January 5th and 6th, to come forward.